Welcome to the church family that is lifting lives through living love, inspiring hope, filling with faith, and transforming our world. These recorded messages are made available so that you might have additional opportunities to stay connected with us, and that you might learn and grow in your faith. God bless you as you hear the word today. And now, the message.
Good morning. Our scripture this morning is from 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 through 15. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. As it is written, they have freely scattered their gifts to the poor, their righteousness endures forever. Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. This service that you perform is not only supplying the needs of the Lord's people, but is also overflowing in many expressions of thanks to God. Because of the service by which you have proved yourselves, others will praise God for the obedience that accompanies your confession of the gospel of Christ, and for your generosity in sharing with them and with everyone else. And in their prayers for you, their hearts will go out to you because of the surpassing grace God has given you. Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. May the Lord bless the reading and the hearing of his word.
Some of you may notice I was wearing a mask. I came down with COVID this week. Early this week on Monday or Tuesday, I know everyone I've been quarantined for 5 days, sitting in a bedroom, and I have been going stir crazy. So it's nice to be out. CDC says after 5 days of quarantine, you can come back. So I think it's safe for me to be here and preach this morning. But just so you all know, following the service, I'm just going to exit stage right. And I don't want to take any chance in getting anyone sick before the holidays. Hope you all understand. But it was kind of interesting this morning because normally I'm out, in the hallways, talking to people, greeting people before the service. But today, since I was kind of quarantined, I was in my office, and my office has a window that looks out on the parking lot. And I just really enjoyed watching everyone come to church this morning, seeing families walking in together, individuals walking in together, friends connecting. And it just reminded me of what a beautiful place it is where people come together to connect, to seek hope, to worship the Lord together. And that's what we're doing today. Today is our Commitment Sunday, which it's a Sunday where we pause to reflect on the ways in which God has been good to us, the ways in which we've seen God's activity in the year in the past, and we commit ourselves as a church to God's work among us in the year ahead. And so this week you should have received commitment cards that would have been mailed out to all the households in our church. If you didn't receive a commitment card, or if you forgot it, there are commitment cards in the pew in front of you. Just trying to be helpful and handy there. If this is one of your first times to worship with us, if you're new to our church this fall, please don't feel any pressure or commitment this Sunday. We're just glad you're here. And a couple months ago, Pastor Kim coined a phrase at worship where she said, this is a place where we hope you could find your place in God's story. And all of us pastors said, that's it, that's who we are. And so we hope this will be a place where you can find your place in God's story. Don't feel pressure to commit, but we're glad you're here, and we hope today will help show what kind of church we are and what's the heartbeat behind us whenever we gather. The commitment card, if you look at it, it doesn't just ask what your gift will be, but it asks for your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness. That reflects the membership vows that we all take to be as part of the Methodist Church, and we included legacy there if you would like to learn about the church endowment. And the reality is, I just want to acknowledge this, that we all have different financial capacities to give, just as we all have different talents and we all have different availabilities of time. And so, we all will fill out this card in different ways according to the gifts that we have and what God puts on our heart. And ultimately, as Jesus taught his disciples through the example of the widow who gave 2 mites at the temple, God is less concerned with the amount of money we give than with the commitment of our hearts to him. And I hope as you prayerfully think about what you're going to what you're going to write on that card, that'll reflect a genuine, heartfelt commitment to God, that you're kind of reflecting in this season, in this stage of my life, what do I bring, what do I have to offer, and how can God use that to bless others in the world? The rest of my sermon, I want to kind of divide into 2 parts. First, I want to give you a state of the church update. I get asked all the time, how is the church doing? So we're going to spend a little time talking about that. And then at the end, I'll reflect a little bit, wrapping up our season series that we've been in. So I get asked this question all the time when I'm out visiting with members of the church. How are we doing? How is the church doing? And so let me do my best to try to answer that question. There's a lot of different ways to try to answer the question. One of the ways that we measure how the church is doing sometimes is by attendance. And I want to be really clear when I share with you these numbers that this is not the number I care most about as a pastor. What I care most about is people being seen, known, valued. I care about individual connections in the church, just not people, how many people are in the pews, but how do we feel connected? What's the quality of our communal life together? However, attendance does give us like a snapshot, so of, kind of the direction we're moving in the church. So I put 3 years up there, 2019, which is the last full year before COVID, 2022, the last full year after COVID, and then 2023, our current year. And you can see our in-person attendance pre-COVID was almost 600 a week. And then post-COVID, 2022, last year was 292, almost cut in half. Now, the interesting thing is online. Now, I put household there instead of individual because we don't really know those who are streaming online if you're by yourselves or if you're gathered together with families and individuals. So we wrote households. So pre-COVID, we had about 90 households, individual IP addresses that were following our services online. And that number grew to 250. So there was a shift from in-person to online, and we're not quite sure. Some churches use a multiplier times the online attendance to capture that sometimes there's more than one. We don't really use a multiplier because we're not really sure how reliable that is. Now, so what does it look like this year? Well, this year to date, our in-person attendance is 357. That's an increase of 65 people per week, which is more than 20% growth. There is a decline on online attendance from 250 to 220, so a little more than 10%. So a little more than 20% increase in person, a little bit, more than 10% decline in online attendance. So what does that mean? Well, to me, these numbers, they reflect what I see happening every week, that every week we have new people, new families who are coming here to our church and finding places of connection here. Every week we have folks who have been online for, sometimes up to 2 years, staying and worshiping virtually, who have made a decision that now is the moment where they feel a need in their lives, that, we need to be back in the church to reconnect with people. And it also reflects that there's an even greater number who are still choosing to worship online, that's working for their family life or for their own spiritual life, and we celebrate all the ways in which we stay in connection. And this is just who we are now as a church. There's thus, group of us who are gathered here every week, but there's also a large group who are scattered in the world, who are connecting from all over the place. And we have to find ways of cultivating meaningful connections, both here and online, so that we understand that we're all together as the body of Christ. That's who we're called to be, gathered and scattered in the world. So that's one barometer you can look at. Another one to look at is church giving. Our annual budget is $1.4 million. That's an increase of 4% over the last fiscal year. And I should note our fiscal year goes from June to July. So we go from mid-year to mid-year for our fiscal year. However, because there's only 3 months so far, or 4 months into this fiscal year, it can kind of skew giving numbers a little bit. So let's look from January to October, calendar year so far. And you can see last year, 2022, our giving was $1,079,000 to this point. This year, $1,062,000 to this point. So that's a difference of decline of $16,000. Not anything that we're terribly worried about. That's less than a 1%, or just over a 1% decline in giving, and there's a lot of variance week to week with these numbers. Anyone who serves in the finance community and ad council can tell you week to week, the giving can fluctuate a lot. So that doesn't mean a whole lot to us. However, I should point out, it doesn't, I told you we increased our budget by 4% to reflect inflation and cost of living. And at least year to date, our giving has not reflected that 4% increase. And here's the good news. One, in lots of previous years, we had surpluses from our budget, and so we kept storing that money away, knowing that there might be down years, and so we have plenty of money kind of stored away to cover any deficit we have in our budget. And two, the even better news is we have great leaders in our finance team and in our ad council and in our staff, and we will be adjusting the budget as we need to. We're not in panic mode. There's no need to make any drastic differences, but we will be adjusting our budget as needed. If we need to cut back, we will. So that's just kind of an update on where we are with giving. Now, I know 1.4 million can seem like, wow, that's a huge number. Surely you could find places to cut, and you can, but let me give you a sense of what the 1.4 million goes to. So here's a picture of what our annual budget gets divided into. Building and maintenance, administration and support, worship, ministry areas, and missions. And you may say, Dave, where's staff and all that? Well, we took all of our staff's salaries and included those in the areas of which we work, if that makes sense. The biggest slice of the pie is building and maintenance. And there's a whole lot that we could celebrate in our building and maintenance. In particular, this new chancel on which I sit, or which I stand, it was put together through the work of trustees and through many private donations in order to do this work. Also this past year, we celebrated, resealing and striping all of the parking lots, so those look all nice and clean for our community. And the thing is about trustees, and the thing about this building is, most of the work that you see that's most visible is not the most expensive ticket items. The stuff that's expensive is the stuff that no one else sees. So like the most expensive item we had this past year was you had to replace the fire suppression system, which is super important, right? But, it doesn't ring any bells. No one sees. Like, I could show you a rusted out pipe that we, as an example of the pipes that we replaced. But anyway, so the fire suppression system. So, you should give some applause. You're sitting in a safe building that would suppress a fire if something were to break out. And our children are protected. And so that's kind of the key thing. One of the things we did put a focus on this year is on renewing our outdoor spaces. So you can see before and after pictures. Because one of the things we want to do is we wanted to construct a cross-country course. It goes our property goes all the way back to the tree line behind the church. A lot of people didn't know that we own that field behind. So we, and if you go, Mark Reef kind of helped us, and Walt Maxon kind of put together this plan of, we can build a cross-country course around our church property that then we can offer to the community, to our schools, not just for practice, but also to host meets. And we're very excited about that in the coming year. Also in the coming year, one of the things we're excited about doing is replacing lighting in the sanctuary with LED lighting, which will help with both energy consumption and costs. And our green ministry team has been wonderful in helping us to move in these directions. So those are some big things happening in building and maintenance. Next, we have support and administration. Again, stuff that happens behind the scenes, but this is how we track giving and finances, how we track membership, how we try to stay in touch and care with everyone. Things important like a website. And we're very excited because in the coming year, we'll have a new website to roll out and share to hopefully increase quality of communication, ease to find information and connect with our community. We also have a new church database system, which again, Doesn't sound very sexy, but it really does. It's incredibly important because the church database system is how we keep touch with everyone and how we know and how we track if someone's sick, if someone needs a follow-up call, if where people are participating. And when we haven't seen someone for a long time, this kind of helps us to know so we don't lose people without knowing they've stepped away. So the church database system, we've been working with it this next year, or this whole year. The next year we hope to roll it out for people too. That you would get to create your own profile, manage your own info, track your own giving. We hope it'll be a great benefit to you as well. And then there's the worship arts. We'll do worship arts for ministry areas. And this is the part that most of us see every single Sunday, and there's a lot to celebrate. Our amazing band, our choir that performs sometimes in this service, always at 11. We're so thankful for the amazing, talented musicians we have. I already mentioned the chancel being renovated, but that was for me a big highlight in worship this year. That particular Sunday when we didn't yet have the carpet down, when it was all plywood and particle board up here, and we invited people to come forward and write prayers after the service to record their prayers for how God would use this space and use this chancel as a place where his good news and his love can be proclaimed. And that came on the heels of a summer where we decided, hey, everyone's away for the summer. We have lower attendance. Let's worship together. So in July, we had our one service Sundays. And a lot of people weren't sure what that was going to feel like, but it was wonderful, wasn't it? To be together as one church for, just for the summer, but to see people that we don't normally see at the 11 o'clock service and to recognize the ways in which we're all connected. And we plan to do that next summer as well. And then there's the ministry areas. And this is the part that takes place Monday to Friday. You may not always see it, but there's a lot to celebrate here. For instance, Vacation Bible School had over 450 kids this year, 150 volunteers. Did you know, if you go to the next slide, there's some VBS pictures there. Did you know that of the 450 kids that came to VBS this year, over 200 when they registered marked that they had no church or religious affiliation? Isn't that incredible? We're reaching out into the community to share Jesus' love with people who don't have a church home through our VBS. It's incredible. And speaking of reaching out in the community, I cannot sing enough the praises of our children's learning program and our Rock after school program and the leadership under Carol Farney and Kathy Gibson. Those are amazing ministries that do the same thing of reaching out into our community and touching families and kids in our community with God's love and care. Next slide is our youth program. We're so excited. We hired last December, we hired a new youth director, Zach Cheeseman, who's doing an amazing job. This is our confirmation class this last year. And one of the things I really appreciate about Zach is he's very intentional about intergenerational ministry. He feels like, we have to get kids connected into the larger body of the church. And so the confirmation class, one way they did that is they had a shared service day with the men's ministry where they went to Horizon House together. And at the Horizon House, they cleaned, go to the next slide and you can see pictures of the Horizon House. They cleaned, they washed windows, they did all kinds of service. And it wasn't about, teaching the kids just the value of service, but it was also about helping them connect with those in a previous generation. And just, the more we do that, that's the picture of the intergenerational ministry and church that we want to have. And speaking of intergenerational, our SAMS ministry, our senior adult ministry, is thriving. Every month when we have our luncheons, I'm always amazed at how full the room is. Bob's tells me that, I think it was in September, we had over 70 people who were part of our SAMS luncheon, which is the highest number we've had. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's the highest number ever. And so it's wonderful. And one of the things that I love about the SAMS ministry is I felt like we hit on a real need in our congregation this summer. When we were doing that one service series, we had this focus. We decided we're going to be our focus was going to be on great servants of the Bible. And as us pastors were talking about who are the great servants of the Bible, and again, I think it was Pastor Kim who said, what about Ruth and Naomi? And we realized we needed to talk about caregiving and about people in our church who are caregivers. And we had no idea when we planned that sermon how many people in our church that would touch and hit. And then Kim followed that up with Bob, and they did I think it was at that September meeting, they did a round table, and they talked about caregiving and the challenges. And we felt like there's such a positive, amazing response to it. That's something that we see as an ongoing need for this coming year, that we're going to continue to have regular meetings and classes and support groups for those who are caring for others. And for any of you who are caregivers out there, we say thank you for your ministry, and we want to come along beside you and support you in that. And then lastly, our Wednesday night dinners, we kicked off, kind of brought back this ministry this fall. And so every Wednesday night, anywhere from, I think our 50 to 100 people are gathering for a meal in the gym, and then we break off. And again, it's one of those fun things for me every week when I just enjoy seeing the people come in. And then after the meal is over, seeing them disperse to the kids going to their Christmas musical rehearsals, the adults going to their various classes, and we celebrate new groups like Grief Share and Moms to Mom that meets on Wednesdays. Both those groups have people who are coming to them. I mean, who are driving 30 to 45 minutes to be part of those groups because they don't have, the church where they attend doesn't have a group like that. And they're finding that kind of care and support here in our church, and I celebrate that. So that's all the ministry that's happening during the week. And then the last slice, missions, is for all the ministry that takes place outside the walls of our church. And I said, earlier the slides, 16%. You should know about 2/3 of that, 10%, is our conference tithe. 10% of everything we receive goes out to the conference to support ministry in the state and around the world. But then the rest of it is stuff that we get to give to our ministry partners. And there's a lot to celebrate here. I want to hold up Isaiah's 117 House, which is a new ministry in our county. And this Easter, we raised money to help them build a driveway to the new Isaiah 117 House. And then one of our small groups did a lemonade stand this summer, and then they went and decorated the homes for the children. And when the Isaiah 117 House opened not too long ago, it was such a wonderful celebration. Isaiah 117 House, I should say what it is. It's a ministry for children who've been separated from their families and who are awaiting placement with a foster family. And instead of having to wait in some government office somewhere, they can stay at this wonderful home and be surrounded by love on this terrible, difficult day in their lives. It's a beautiful ministry that we've been able to become partners with. This past fall, this is our third year that we're committed, that we're partnering with World Vision. Our second year to be doing Team World Vision, which is running in the Indy Monumental. We had 25 members of our church who ran, and together we raised over $27,000. And that doesn't even speak to the totality of our church's involvement with World Vision, because over 100 children in Aguacatan, Guatemala are sponsored through members of our church. And so it's a beautiful partnership we've been able to develop with them. This summer, there's a group of us that goes every Sunday to teach English on the east side. It's a small group, about 6 to 8 of us, who go and teach English with the Haitian community. And I put out the call this spring and said, I want to take all of our students to the zoo. And you guys responded instantly. And so this summer, we were able to take 45 Haitian men and women and children to the zoo, where they got to see for their first time. I mean, they'd never seen it in their lives. They'd never been to a zoo, so they'd never seen any of the animals. And they got to come up close through the partnership with the zoo. They put special behind-the-scenes experiences where they could come close and touch elephants. It was an amazing, amazing day. And then shortly after that, Pastor Lydia came to our church and said for her back-to-school experience, she wanted to provide shoes. And so I put out a challenge. Can we provide shoes for these kids? And in 2 days, we raised $9,000, which was enough to give 250 children shoes, a brand new pair of shoes as they began the new school year. And there's the endowment, which if you're not familiar with our endowment, there's a pictogram, as you head out over on the left-hand side, as you head out into the lobby of a tree with some brochures you can pick up. But the endowment is $1.3 million, but the beautiful thing about our endowment is most of it is set up to benefit our ministry partners. 10 Point, Fletcher Place, Roberts Park, the Indiana United Methodist Children's Home up in Lebanon, Love, Inc., Mission Guatemala, Zami Fondwa in Haiti. I mean, there's all this money. So this year, and 5% of that amount every year goes to our mission partners. So this year, I had the joy of sending $65,000 worth of checks to all of our ministry partners saying, use this, God bless you, keep doing the good work that you're doing in the world. And I have the picture of Jim and Marlene up here because this year we started a new silo within our endowment in honor of Jim and Marlene, the Jim and Marlene Gentry Legacy Fund, with a specific purpose of supporting and cultivating servant leadership here in our church. And that doesn't even say, that doesn't capture it all. I wish I could keep going, but Africa University, we gave to scholarship programs there. Core relief after wildfires in Maui, you guys responded with generosity there. When we asked for clothing, we got tubs full of socks and underwear. We have blankets that were taken to Fletcher Place. Hams, turkeys, all the angel tree gifts. I tried to put to add it all together. Endowment, the fundraising, all. And setting aside all the in-kind donations, just cash donations, money going out, well over $200,000 from our church. And that's setting aside the conference apportionments, not including that. That's the difference you guys are making in the world. To be pastor of a place that has that capacity to make a difference, it's humbling and beautiful. So back to the question, how are we doing as a church? I think we're doing okay. I think we're doing better than okay. And to me, the question, how we're doing, it's good, but I think, what are we doing? Well, what we're doing is we're loving one another. We're creating spaces in our church for people to find support and care and friendship. We're tackling difficult topics. We're not sticking our heads in the sand, but we're tackling them with grace and patience and love with one another. We're trying to be generous with the many blessings that God gives us. We're trying to make a difference in the world. We're trying to be the body of Christ. And do we do it perfectly? No, not by a long shot. But this is our North Star, following Jesus, loving one another, serving Christ in the world. And that will continue to be our North Star no matter what the future holds. Okay? So that's how we're doing as a church. And allow me now just to wrap up the Seasons series. As you know, we've been talking about seasons as a set period of time in all of our lives. We all have seasons in which God is working for a specific purpose. And we talked specifically about 2 weeks ago, seasons of change and transition and how hard that can be. And last week we talked about seasons of waiting and how hard that can be. And today I thought, well, I want to end on a different note. So I'm going to offer 3 words. And the 3 words are gratitude, hope, and commitment. Okay? Those 3 words. Let's start with the word gratitude. And my word around gratitude just came out of a strange place. I was listening to sports radio this is a couple weeks back. And the sports radio I was listening to, they do a segment every week they call Coach's Rant. Whenever they do the Coach Rant, they call it Coach Rant. They play Jim Moore going, playoffs? Playoffs? Like you guys remember that, right? So this was Coach Rant on sports radio, and they had a clip from Dabo Swinney. Some of you may have seen this if you follow sports. Dabo Swinney is the head football coach of Clemson Tigers. As you know, the Clemson Tigers have been really good the last decade or so. They've won 2 national championships, been in playoffs. This is not their year. They are 4-4, or at the time of this Coach Rant, they were 4-4, and they lost to teams, Duke, NC State, Miami, that they normally, kick the stuffing out of them, right? And so Coach Swinney was on a radio talk show, and they had people calling in, and this guy called in who wanted to ask him a question about, does he feel guilty about how much money he makes when his team is playing so badly? Now, I'm not sure what kind of response he wanted from Dabo Swinney. He did not get a contrite response. Dabo Swinney didn't apologize at all for how much money he makes. He did take ownership. He said, that's on me, the way we're playing and the way we're losing, that's on me. But then he kind of tore into this call. He says, but let me tell you, you and people like you are part of the problem. He says, people who like you, whose expectation is greater than their appreciation. You should just be appreciative for these young men and the way they're playing, and they put their hearts, appreciate, don't expect. And even though he was yelling at this guy, it was not like a God moment at all. To me, in the car, it was a God moment because I thought, gosh, how often do I allow my expectations to overshadow my appreciation? I get so caught up in how I want life to go or how I want this event, or maybe, as we're going to the holidays, how I want the holidays to go. We have great expectations around the holidays. And if we're not careful, we can allow our expectations to overshadow our appreciation. And so as we head into Thanksgiving, as we, whatever season you're in, whether it's a winning season or a losing season or a 500 season, whatever season you're in, let's be appreciative of this moment and the people we get to spend it with, appreciative of the gifts rather than expecting more and more. So that's my word about gratitude. Second word, hope. As I said, we've been talking about seasons of change, seasons of loss, seasons of waiting. And to me, the only way we get through those seasons is if we understand this also as a season of hope. Because it's hope that sustains us through change. It's hope that sustains us through waiting. 2 weeks ago when I preached about transition and change, it happened to be All Saints Sunday. And so following church, I was out talking with a family who had lost their mother. And the daughter of that family was sharing with me how hard a year it has been. And I was just kind of listening, and she was talking about how the journey of grief has been harder than anything she ever imagined it would be. And then as she was sharing with me, she said, she shared with me this moment where she had a moment of hope. And I said, that's it. That's what we need. And I was like, I can't go back and preach my sermon again, so I'm doing it now. But I was like, that's what we need. Whenever we're going through transition, whenever we're going through the neutral zone, whenever we're in a place of waiting, we need signs of hope. And the thing about a sign of hope is it doesn't tell us that we've arrived. It doesn't tell us we're there. No, we're still stuck wandering our way through. But the sign kind of points us in a direction. And it gives us hope to anticipate what may be someday. We all need signs of hope. And then as I was I didn't use all those words, but as I was kind of affirming for this one daughter, this sign that she had, and yes, hold on to that. We all need signs. The other daughter kind of said, well, how do you know it's a sign? What if it's just something that I'm just clinging to as a sign, but it's not really a sign of hope? And I said, whether or not it's a sign is really what disposition you bring to it, whether you are actively watching for hope. Micah 7:7 says, as for me, I watch and hope for the Lord. We're called to be watchers, to look out for signs of hope, because if we are open to them and keep our eyes open, we can see them. And all those wonderful things, that I just shared with you about what's happening in our church, every single one of them to me is a sign of hope. We're not there. I know we're not there. But God is giving us continually plenty of signs to trust and hope that one day, by his grace, we will be. And we can give thanks for his leadership and for his provision for us in the meantime. So keep watch and keep hope. So gratitude, hope, and then lastly, a quick word about commitment. And this word comes from dear friends of mine, Rory and Avril Thompson. I don't know how many of you know Rory and Avril. They joined our church, I think, started coming to our church about the same time I came here as pastor. They moved to our country from South Africa. This year they celebrated becoming citizens of the U.S., and we were so excited to be able to celebrate that with them. If you know Rory and Avril, Rory's the more outspoken of them. He's much more bold. His voice is louder. He carries. He's a big personality. Avril, meanwhile, is much more quiet and soft-spoken, and yet she is full of wisdom. And Rory, to his credit, recognizes the gift of Avril's wisdom in his life. So we're in a small group, And we were talking, and I don't remember what the discussion was, but Rory shared a bit of wisdom that Avril has shared with him. He said with their daughter, Alice, he often, wants to rush things. He looks forward to all the things that they're going to be able to do together, all the things Alice can do, and he kind of starts pushing and getting ahead of himself. And in those moments, Avril will say to him gently, Rory, I can't do it with her accent to make it sounds, she says, Rory, don't anticipate, participate. Don't anticipate, because you're going to miss out on all the good things that are happening right now if you're so worried about the future. Don't anticipate, but participate in this moment right now with your daughter, with me, and you'll shape what is to come. And that's been a very good word to me, because whenever I get worried about the future, what is the Methodist Church going to do? What are we going to do? How are we going to, where's the church going? I remember, Dave, don't anticipate. Participate in the here and the now. Be open to what God is doing. Be aware of where God is in our lives right now. Participate in the full and now, and allow God to shape and hold the future. So we're going to close the message this morning, and Frank's going to lead us in a song. And as he plays the song, we have a video that's going to play on the screen, a review of some of the ministry that's taken place in our church this past year. But as it does play, I just want to encourage you with these 3 words, that you might remember with gratitude the work that God is doing among us. That you might anticipate with hope the future that he has prepared. But most of all, that you might participate in the here and the now with open hearts to all God is doing among us.
All throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked beside me. The winter storms made way for spring, and every season from where I'm standing, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see promises and fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. Help me remember when I'm weak. Fear may come, but fear will leave. You lead my heart to victory. You are my strength. You always will be. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, the evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away because of you, oh Jesus. I see evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see promises and fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. I see
Good morning. My name is Bob Drolley, and I am the Director of Congregational Care here at Zionsville UMC. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to get to know you more and spend some time with you. If you'd like to know more about our faith community, please visit our church website at zumc.org. There you'll find the many ministry opportunities we have to offer. If you need to contact one of our staff members, all of our contact information is at the bottom of each web page. You can also connect with us via social media throughout your week for daily inspiration and community. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the username Zionsville UMC. Once again, thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope you have a wonderful week.